Welcome to the final keynote talk in this m4music 2024 edition. So the m4music is a project for Mikrokulturprozent, a meeting point for pop culture and members of the music industry on an international and national level for over 20 years now. And it's really nice to be part of this right now and having a bunch of people in the audience. Thank you already for coming. So later there will be an opportunity to ask questions as well. With me here on stage, Neal Sugarman, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
So I would like to introduce us both briefly. My name is Emel Ilter. I am a record collector, DJ and radio host based in Basel. And my radio show on Radio X is called Soul Sketches, and I invite guests with records and we have a casual conversation, a bit like this right now. And also I have a residency at NTS Radio, Channel 1, with a show called Heavy Love Affair. So if you have a listen to the shows, you will see what I'm up to and I would be delighted. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, Neal Sugarman, co-owner of Daptone Records and tenor saxophone player. We already heard him on this single. And you are also a member of the Dap Kings. You've been on tour with several artists like Lee Fields, Al Green, Steve Cropper, Charles Bradley, Sharon Jones, many, many more names you have been working with. And you are founder of the soul jazz boogaloo formation, the Sugarman 3. So it has been an impetus, I guess, to start with Daptone Records together with Gabriel Roth, the man with several aliases, but also known as Bosco Man, founder and chief producer and engineer of Daptone Records. Welcome, Neal. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you. Lovely to see all these smiling faces. No, it's a pleasure to be here. I just want to say, Emel she never plays a bad record. Oh. That's, as a DJ, an important skill to have. But no, we met a few years ago because she runs a Soul Weekend in Lausanne.
Lucerne, yes.
Sorry, excuse me. Not Too Young, right?
Not Too Young Swiss Soul Weekend,
yeah. And I had a was fortunate enough to play some records there, and that was stressful because this is some serious record collectors.
Yeah, it's an event which is like for soul aficionados from all over Europe, even also guests from States. We all love the same passion about soul music, and we celebrate the collecting of the records of it. So, yeah, and you have been a part of it. So the world is in a way small. Never would have guessed to invite Neal Sugarman to the Soul Weekender, but the world. The slide. The world in general is maybe small, but the Daptone world is definitely not. In the sense of that, once you look into Daptone, you realize that it's its own solar system, its own cosmos with a soulful Big Bang around 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, and in which stars emerged, in which there are artists from different generations coming together, sharing values and experiences, and in which albums are also released that haven't received the attention and the time they should have. I'm talking about Bob and Jean and also the Johnny Uncalled For, now recently released. And then you have the sub-labels, the imprints, which open up a totally new world, like going into the variety, into the edges of soul music, like, for instance, Dunham Records, Eversoul, Wick, and Penrose, and many more. So we see also cooperations with Timian Records, for instance, and you have also signatures in productions that won Grammys. So we meet Daptone in films, we meet Daptone in TV series, in the Apollo, and as samples in hip-hop tracks. and so on and so on. So I've talked a lot, but I just wanted to point out all the gates that might lead you into the dimension of Daptone. So, which leads me to my question, Neal, how does this thought make you feel that probably each one of the audience member has his or her own love affair with Daptone?
That makes me feel very good. No, I mean, it's always, you know, I'm sure everyone in this room has some kind of, can relate to the fact that you're doing something on the day-to-day basis and you sometimes forget the impact that you might be having on a bigger scheme, and you're just doing your thing. So I'm at home licensing, talking to people about licensing records for hip hop samples or TV shows. It's just business, right? But then I come in here and I hear you, before anyone who was here a little earlier, heard all the records that Emel was playing that were all things that we were involved on the production side of, and I'm just like, wow, this stuff. You know, you kind of need to be reminded. So it just was like, wow, this music sounds fucking great. You know, and that's so it is important for me to sometimes take a step back from the day-to-day, because some of it's great and some of it's a real hassle, you know. Like, we all get into whatever we do for just wanting to make music, and then you end up getting sucked into some great stuff and some nonsense. But more great stuff for sure, you know. And when I look back, yes, there's a lot to be proud of, and it's incredible.
Yeah, and if you look back, I mean, I just quickly pulled out a few records this morning out of my collection, and if you look at the, let's say, common characteristics of the artist portfolio, what is it that you would like to point out? So what makes an artist a family member of Daptone? I mean, family can be troubled as well.
Sure,
we all know it.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm
no,
talking about.
I'll emphasize that it is, you know, as much as people say, oh, the Daptone family, it really is, and it started. Can you say people familiar with Daptone here? Or I just want to know, like, at what level I'm talking to people, because we started in the label actually started around 2001 when we released the first Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings LP. But really, the group of musicians that were on that record and involved in Daptone, we were together even before that, in the late 90s, where we all met in different groups. One of the group was Antibalas, one was the Soul Providers, and it was just a bunch of like-minded musicians that met, and we started making music together, and then it evolved, and then we met Sharon Jones, and then we started backing her. We met Lee Fields, we started backing him, and so basically, it was a group of musicians that all had their own bands, and we were working together. And so I think of it as a group of leaders. I had the Sugarman Three, and then we were playing in the Dap Kings. Tom Brennick had the Budos Band, Homer Steinweiss, Leon Michaels. They had the Mighty Imperials, which went on to be L. Michaels' affair. So it was all kind of stemmed from this root. We were all involved in the Dap Kings, and each one of these members had their own group that they were working on, or producing records, even more so, which to us was really important. I almost would say the production component of the people that were playing in the Dap Kings, the records that they were producing, were as important to us as the band themselves. So, for instance, I had met Charles Bradley on a Sugarman 3 session. He came and backed us up. And then he met Tom Brennick, who was the guitar player in the Dap Kings, who then started the Minahan Street Band and brought Charles in he was producing Charles's records. And then Tom ended up producing stuff for us. And then Gabe was producing Sharon. Homer Steinweiss, the drummer, was producing different, Doug Shorts and different artists. So basically, what I'm saying is that it really grew from the Dap Kings and all of the different tentacles that came out. Everything can still be tied into that first few years that we were together, to this day.
Yeah, so the image of a big bang is kind of a good one.
Yeah.
because from this moment, anything else like emerged and evolved,
Yeah,
and
in
still
fact,
connected. Actually,
yeah. So if Victor Axelrod, who produced a ton of reggae stuff for us, who was also in the Dap Kings in the original formation of the Dap Kings, if he called me and said, "I have an artist I want to produce," I'm more likely to sign that artist than if that artist came to me without this producer. If that makes any sense to you guys. I just know that these guys are going to deliver great sounding records, and know what we want, what a great sounding record to us means.
So I was in touch with Nydia. Nydia is a director of marketing at Daptone Records, probably from the beginning, right?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. We've had the same staff now for
yeah. So
it's the same group of as much as the artists, it's the same small group of people who've been working for us.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
which we feel really good about.
When I asked Nydia about, hey, what is it like to work with Neal Sugarman? I'd like to quote her.
The other way around.
Neal is an artist first. And if there's one thing that I've learned from him that's invaluable to the branding and legacy of Daptone, is that the music comes first. It's important to sit with an album for a while and have time to figure out how best to do right by it when presenting it to the public, without chasing trends or letting deadlines get in the way of the creative process. So, wow. So
I'll have to thank Lydia for that.
Are you crying?
That's my girl. You know. So, I'm always looking up to her, actually, but that's nice of her.
Well, I'm not a musician, I'm not an artist, but from that perspective, this actually sounds a bit like heaven. Is this maybe kind of, I don't know how to say, but a rare house blessing or something? What's surrounding Daptone?
Yeah, man. You know, at the end of the day, I think that, we were both my partner Gabe Roth and myself were musicians first, and you know, I got thrown into doing this business, and Gabe always tells me, he's like, the only reason we're still in business is that you're not a businessman. That you are actually a musician, and that means that I wasn't out trying to leverage advances from distribution companies or leverage the label against public, you know, all the different stuff that has basically collapsed almost every other record label that we started with back in the day. You know, so I take those words very seriously too, you know, and as you said, it's almost like our artisanal, you know, like we're only doing a few records a year. You know, we're not trying to, and we have our hands on every single record, every project that we put out. Somehow we're reviewing it, whether we're either recording it or playing on it. But if not, we're very close to the process, and I think that's paid off. You know, and again, we're taking our cues from labels like Stax and Motown. You know, and I always say that the brand. What we always craved or tried to do was, because we were lovers of records, you know, when you take that Stax record and you pull it out and you start to see either the yellow label or, you know, whichever, the orange label, whatever that year of the Stax pressing was, but you see that logo and you just get this. When I think about it, I get a little, whoo. You get chills up and down your spine, as you would with a great Motown. You know, you see that Gordy, and we were hoping that's what we wanted to do, and we never thought we would come close to that. But you know, it you know, blue label, the Globe, Daptone logo.
Yeah, I mean, talking about soul, is it the place you are right now? Is it also maybe does it come with the genre in a way, because meaning like soul music being such a timeless and universal place to be?
You know, it's funny, like I don't think it's necessarily soul music, because we did start this label called Wick Records because I love garage rock. I would say that the common thread between everything we do is wearing our influences on our sleeve, which I don't personally think is a bad thing. We are paying homage to the history of the music, and we're record collectors, and we never want to be stuck not knowing the influences of everything that we're producing and putting out. And I think that's important, and I think that's ultimately, I was telling someone today, just if you're thinking about painting, if you're a painter and you don't know who Paul Cézanne is, then you're guessing. You're getting lucky, potentially. It's the same thing with music. You need to really dig into the influences of knowing that the church and blues records and soul records came out of that, and and definitely, jazz records. We're all, how this music, especially American music, is what we're specializing in, how it all evolved.
Yeah, I mean, do you see yourself also within this music business and, let's say, in a self-sustaining position and don't really care what's happening around you in the music business? Or are there any influences?
Well, that's undeniable. You can't put your head in the you can't say I'm not going to stream music, or I'm not going to press CDs, or I'm only going to do this one thing, because it is a business, first of all, and we also have a responsibility to the artists to get their music to as broad an audience as we possibly can, and that's something we take very seriously when we make a contract. We're working for these artists. So I just wanted to say one thing that what I was really getting at with that whole thing, because it doesn't necessarily mean soul music. It can be rock and roll. It can be disco. I guess disco is a form of soul music, but it can be.
But you had some boogie releases as well.
Yeah, that. But even Kochemia's record is very world music, and it's just it just needs to be organic and raw and feel honest. I'm not. It does so happen that soul music is what we love and what what we built everything around. So, anyways, the other question was.
I was just trying to.
About the music business part.
A self-sustaining part.
Yeah.
If this is possible for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually the music business is in a very good place right now. As much as I was 100% against the streaming world, it's now equalized the industry. And I think anyone who's in the industry will understand. I think that it's a hard way to make money in music, because, you're talking millions, not thousands. You could sell 10,000 records and you do pretty well. And now you really need to be streaming 10 million streams before you really start to feel that money. But I honestly think that good music will rise to the top. And it's a tricky time, but there's a lot of ways to get music to people's ears. And if it's something they like, they're going to come back, and you build a catalog, and it can really work. And the nice thing now is that with streaming, it's like publishing. It'll always, if you have something that's working, there's income month over month over month over month, as opposed to that one-time record sale.
You were talking about responsibilities before, so you were mentioning responsibilities as a label, probably, and but do you see responsibilities for helping out musicians, putting out the work out, and is there any more places where you see responsibilities? I mean, like, for instance, are there responsibilities for the listener or for the fan, for the record store? Where do you see those responsibilities?
Well, I mean, I think it's a tricky one. I mean, I can't tell anyone what to listen to or what record store to sell, but I do think that, anyone who loves music has a I think people, if join the streaming subscription if you really want to make sure that the artists are getting their due, or so that from the listener standpoint, be involved in the process of, you know, the economics of the music industry. It's quite easy now. Obviously, you take a subscription to Spotify, and it's amazing what you have, the access that you have music there, as opposed to YouTube, which doesn't really pay, and you know, but obviously there's music that you can only hear on YouTube. So that would be the potential responsibility of the listener. I think any good record store knows that the only way they're going to stay in business is understanding their customers, you know. I mean, I always thought the best record stores, you know, when Joe walks in, I know that he digs Latin music, so I'm going to, you know, hey, have you heard this new record, or you hear this reissue or something? So, you know, that's just any small business, right, to stay in business. So that's their responsibility. And then from us as producers is really just trying to give each artist, like, help them find their way without skewing them into one direction, as Nydia said, like following trends, or that just is, man, I just say, like, we as Adapt Kings, you know, we played on Amy Winehouse's record. And that was a big deal for us. We were really good friends with Mark Ronson. Man, after we did that record, every other week we're getting a call from some other major label that just wanted us to play on their record that for a singer that sounded like Amy Winehouse. I mean, it's just over and over I see these major labels just following what happened the week before, as opposed to finding an artist and really trying to develop them and help them. Like the Jalen Ngonda record is a good example of something he's a great new artist, and I'm really proud of that record because we worked really closely. I specifically was working really closely with him, and he wrote tons of songs, and us going through every song and helping him find his voice in that record, putting him with the right musicians. And it wasn't up to us, it was up to us to help suggest, you know, pushing him in the right direction. And yeah, it worked out. And he's super thrilled, and we're excited about this hopefully long, fruitful relationship because of that.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. It's an amazing record, like one of my most favorite currently.
Well, it's funny because this last 2 weeks, I've gotten Island Record calls me, Universal Republic calls me, Verve. They all are like, "Hey, what about this Jalen Ngonda?" And I think what ended up happening was there was something that went in like Instagram, and he's an unbelievable singer. So you see this clip, and they're all like, "I don't know, who is this guy?" You know. But they could never make that record because he did that before he came to us. And they just pushed him down some road. Oh, make a record sounds like this, make a record, you know, and it was mediocre. And I don't think he would have got there. And this is not, it's, you know, what I would sit with him in the car and we'd listen to music together over and over and just, you know.
Is there maybe, I don't know if I got that right, but James Hunter 6, as James Hunter, he has released an album on Universal, right? And
well, he was with Concord before us. Well,
okay, the next release was on Daptone. So what happened there? Well,
you know, James was a friend of ours, and he was under contract with Concord, and we really loved him. But he had asked Gabe to produce one of the records for Concord. So he produced the record for Concord, and then the next one we picked up the option, or you know.
All right.
But I do think the records that Gabe produced for James they sound like just natural. I mean, that's another thing that we're always talking about, like when you're listening to mixes, like, does it just sound natural? And unfortunately or fortunately, to me, older records sound more natural than new records. Does anyone else have that experience? Somehow new records feel like when you're miking a drum set, you're like, it's a drum set, it's one instrument, it's, you know, you're missing the room and just processes, and I even think that they're probably mixing records so they sound good out of computer speakers. I don't know, but somehow things feel funny to me in a lot of new records. They just don't, and the music can be great, but there's something that just doesn't sound open and natural the way when you listen to either a Blue Note record or Stax record or a Motown record, or vocals are processed. I don't know. That's just so trying to get something to feel natural, whether that's the performance, the sound of the record.
Yeah. So because you were talking about natural, natural procedure, how you might call it, for me personally, is the development, the evolution of Penrose. Like, for instance, mentioning the imprints of Daptone. So I think you might be familiar with The Sacred Souls from San Diego.
Yeah, if you play that song, that's like our hit song at the moment, and it just went viral.
Quickly.
Like, people who maybe don't know Daptone or don't know. I would like to wonder who has not heard this song before. It's just kind of and this shows the power of Instagram and social media.
Can I call you Rose?
Does anyone not know that song?
Flower in bloom.
That's good.
Okay.
That's the hook.
So,
does everyone know that song, or is there? I mean, is it something that you knew before, or is it like, oh wait, I know that song because it was it may be TikTok. Yeah, sure. For sure, like, you know, that's a huge, and that goes into this whole other conversation about the way people are discovering music. And
yeah, we were talking about the Elton sample.
Yeah.
Over and over. There was a guy called Prod Marvin who sampled it for Otra Vez.
Yeah.
And it went really viral in these TikTok-ish reels. Yeah.
But the difference is that I've known a lot of people who've had huge TikTok hits. The song still has to be good, right? Because we don't get income from TikTok. What happens is you click through and you save it onto your Spotify playlist, and that's when you know, you still need to engage with the music. And I like to think that that's just a great song and has such a vibe, and it connects with people, and it feels so good.
Absolutely.
That people clicked on it, and then, you know, and that's why it has 50 million streams or whatever.
Yeah. So I was talking about Penrose in the sense that as an imprint, the way it developed with also the band. You know, for me as a collector, I have like a bit different ways of discovering new things.
Yeah.
For instance, the Altons, who are also on Penrose, or The Sacred Soul, I got to know from a mixtape from a collector from the States. You know, I'm checking all the mixtapes who's... and there are several collectors that I appreciate most. And when these songs are put in the context of like the traditional soul music, it's so beautifully blended in. Especially, you know, these guys coming from San Diego, from the Chicano soul scene. And I guess this was more like a natural evolution, like growing slowly and steadily in the scene before the big jump, so to speak. So becoming a bit more this. Because of this tribute thing and the homage, you have the authenticity and the credibility, I guess, first.
Well, okay, so my partner Gabriel, who, you know, for years we were based in Brooklyn, New York, and for the first 15 years or more, that's where the artists came from. I mean, you had Charles Bradley was a Brooklyn native, Sharon Jones was a Brooklyn native, all the Dap Kings lived in Brooklyn. Is Binky here? I don't know if they show up anywhere. Now, one of my fellow bandmates is playing with Say She She, so I'm super excited to see Binky Grip Tight here tonight. Anyways, we were all living in Brooklyn, making records in Brooklyn, producing Brooklyn artists. Gabe was originally from Riverside, California, so once he wanted to move back home, where his family lived, and so we ended up, you know, it was a few years had passed. He was traveling back and forth to New York, and then we were like, there's a scene happening, which is like, you know, this Chicano soul scene. These young Mexican kids making records that sound like Can I Call You Rose? And the Sinceres and the Altons, and it's just one of these things. So we were like, man, let's invest and build a studio out there, and if you build it, they will come, you know. And we wanted to give the same way that Daptone had this Brooklyn identity for these musicians. Everyone in the Dap Kings, hopefully they felt, although the label's owned by Gabe and myself, when we do a record deal, we partner with people. You know, we split everything 50-50, and we wanted to give these kids on the West Coast their own brand, their own label, so that they had that same kind of connection to family and ownership, which they may not have had with Daptone. So that's really the idea behind Penrose. And just so some inside stuff, Penrose is Penelope and Rose, which are Gabe's kids.
Oh, so in this context, I'd like to ask another question about, you know, because you said a place where people come and be found, so to speak. So here on this Bob and Jean single, it says, "It's not what you know, it's who you know." So is there any truth about it? How do you bump into someone? How does that happen?
Yeah, you know, I mean, like I said, it's like if one of the musicians that we're currently, I mean, I get a lot of submissions. You get people, hey, I love what you guys are doing. Will you know, listen to music? I can't, honestly, I can't think of any situations. You know, I don't want to discourage people from sending their demos to record labels, but that's not one time how we found any of the artists. It all comes from reference inside, you know, who you know. Not who you know as far as the music needs to be good, but most of the artists are coming through this group of musicians that we're currently involved in. And oh, you know, my friend is making these cool records, and or one of them wants to produce one of these artists. It's just the fact of the way it rolled out for us. So again, I would not discourage anyone here who are musicians trying to figure out how to get in touch with labels. And I listen to everything people send me, and I definitely try to get back to people, and I'm in touch with them. And when we come through, you know, meet people and they want to keep in touch. But I do tell them if they really have a close look at what we're doing, it's really a production house more than, we've never put out a record that was finished. We would have had to record it. And that's different than most labels, but that's how we work.
And have you bumped into any Swiss artists yet?
Yeah, lots of them. They bump into them. No. I'm playing. I've been. So everyone knows. My wife is from Zurich, and just before COVID, we were living in the city for a long time. I have 2 kids, and she was wanting. We started looking at houses upstate. Then Trump got elected, and it was just like, hey, let's move to Zurich. It was a good time. It was easy for me to work remotely. I was traveling back and forth, and then obviously the COVID thing hit soon after we moved here, which was a real blessing in disguise that we were here instead of New York City, which was a shit show. And here was a shit show, but not so bad, right? We were able to get into the countryside, and I've been enjoying it. And the drag for me through COVID was I lost 2 years of meeting people because no one went out. But I have been playing. I have a soul jazz group, and I'll plug the gig. We're playing April 3rd at Kasheme. I've been doing it once a month at Kasheme. It's just like fun and great musicians, and you know, it's nothing connected to our record label. I'm just playing saxophone and having fun, and yeah, lots of, you know, they're great players. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and you too.
Yeah, I've been
Great
also playing
DJs
at Kashem. Yeah, it's a unique place to play music. You know, it's really like a conscious place to be in music-wise.
But I'm excited about being more involved in the Swiss music scene. Even coming here and doing this,
Yeah.
I remember listening to a Spotify panel. And it's cool that now I'm part of the community here, and I was asked to be here and put my 2 cents into this m4music thing.
Thank you. So, as a musician, I mean, you have been longer than those 23 years of Daptone in the business, and you have seen and observed several changes and, like developments in the music industry. But what I would like to ask, as an independent label, is, there is this image of being more, how do you say in English, agile, like flexible.
Yeah.
Things happen. I mean, there have been like some great losses during the Daptone period with the death of Sharon Jones and Charles Bradley and Dan Klein.
Naomi.
And how do you go on with this?
Well, I mean, we had our main artist for many years was Sharon Jones. She was the same way maybe the Sacred Souls at this point are our biggest artist. For many years it was Sharon, and Gabe and I both were playing in that in her band and touring with her, and she passed away. Actually, that was again in 2016, right as Trump was elected. Sharon passed away. One of the other reasons why I thought it was a good time for me to, if I was ever going to move out of New York City, that was a good time. But, we have our catalog, and we have, again, the responsibility to keep that music alive if we possibly can. And, there's we could have stopped. It was a tricky one because even the band, the Dap Kings, it was like, what are you guys going to do? And there was no way that we would ever, find another singer that would fill those shoes, nor would it ever feel right. And unfortunately, we always thought we would continue to do something, and it's just up to now we just haven't found the opportunity as a band to get together and tour with another singer, although there are potentially things in the
So there are things happening?
Well, there's a couple of singers that, and it's enough time has passed where maybe it would be interesting, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think about playing with those guys all the time.
Yeah. I'm sure. So we were also talking about the, cooperations between other independent labels as Timian, as maybe Big Crown as well. There is a connection with Leon Michaels, etc. So also beyond Daptone as a label, there is things going on, and I would like to know, how do these cooperations happen, and on what base? So what's the idea and philosophy behind it?
I would say that we're not collaborating with these other labels, but I appreciate that you have brought these other labels up, because that's a super important component to how I came up when I was a young musician, even in the 80s, and I was from Boston, and I used to play in punk rock bands, and I was just...
Oh yeah, I've seen a footage.
Yeah, oh shoot.
Boys Life.
If you want to some really out-of-tune saxophone playing.
But I cannot see your face
playing.
because of this cool hair in your face. Okay.
I'm just saying, it was musically it was not great, but it was fine. But what was really amazing about that at that time was like, man, you went and you saw local bands. It was way cooler for us to go and hear Mission of Burma than some band that was on tour. Hear a local band, and you were supporting each other. And somehow when I moved to New York, I kind of was disappointed, because everyone was like, my band, it wasn't a scene. So when you bring up these other labels who are doing something very similar to us, I love all those labels, and I'm friends with all those people, and we think of it as a scene. And if we have more of an opportunity to help each other, then try to say, oh, my records are better than your records. You know, I love all those records, and I love Big Crown stuff. Everything they're doing is incredible. It's kind of like Big Crown is like, and Daptone is like Stax and High Records. If anyone knows, from Memphis, there were two great record labels, and there were only a few musicians that were going back and forth between the two labels, but. And they each have their own sound, and they're both important record labels. But yeah, for a minute we were helping Timmy with distribution, and obviously we talk to everyone all the time about who are the good PR firms that we like using, who's doing radio, and so it's an open book, and it's great. You know, I think there's Coal Mine Records as well, another label doing a similar thing to us. And I think any independent record label are up against enough struggles that we need to be communicating and coalition if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So Big Crown, also great artists on that label. One of my favorites is Lady Ray. So I really love her style, like this Mary J. Blige-ish attitude and voice in a soulful context. It's amazing.
But it's the same thing. It's, you know, again, it's like Leon Michaels, who's producing all those records. And everything he produces has such a cool sound. And you know, I mean, he was originally in the Dap Kings. So there you have it again. It's the same thing. And the guys who are playing on those records are Nick Mavshan, who... you know, was originally in Antibalas and played with us all the time, and Homer Steinweiss, who was also in the Dap Kings, and Tom Brennick. So it's a scene of musicians that you know, are all making cool records, and it's real interesting to hear these great musicians when Leon is producing the record as opposed to when Gabe is producing the record. You know, and that's actually kind of the most interesting thing. You know.
Yeah, so when I was checking up the discography of Daptone, I bumped into like artists like Jay-Z or some TV series OSTs, etc. So maybe we should also talk about the idea or the business part of licensing. Because this seems, you know, you were mentioning that, you know, sampling hip-hop in hip-hop music has been for a long time like a Wild West, and now it gets a bit more regulated in a way. So what is the importance of licensing for Daptone?
Well, I mean, listen, when we're as a record label, I think of it as like you have a bucket and you're just basically, or many buckets, trying to catch as many little drops, and those drops are pennies, you know. And no, you're not getting these big windfalls, but it's just you need to understand all the different income streams. And one is obviously streaming music, one is obviously selling records, and the other is kind of like using your masters and publishing to for licensing, which can be everything from, you know, overhead music in the grocery store to
I found Dana is very soulful. Have you noticed that
Dana?
the music in Dana is very soulful? Really? Okay, anyway, sorry.
I know that's not dinner. I know that's my meat.
Sorry for interrupting. I was just.
But that's the one thing. Like, yeah, that's the thing that gets Swiss people like. No. What was I saying? Oh, so anyways, yeah. You need to know. So licensing has become is a cool income stream for us. And first, like the granddaddy is TV commercials. If you land like a TV commercial, and actually the trend it's been going on for a long time, probably for the last 20 years. It used to be that there were production houses that made TV commercial music, but 9 times out of 10, not so much in Switzerland, but more in the US and the UK, when you see TV commercials, it's often can be like a Led Zeppelin song, or like car commercials, like big songs. And you're just kind of like in the computer hitting refresh, hoping that you're going to see like we want to use your song in a TV ad. So and it does happen. And it's probably, we do 2 or 3 ads a year. And those are substantial because they're spending, hey, we had a TV commercial on a Lee Field song on Super Bowl last year. It was farmers' dog food. And Lee Fields has a song, Forever. I Want to Hold You Forever. It's a beautiful, beautiful song, and it was kind of like, I have to say it was perfect for a dog food commercial, like this girl like taking her dog, and I just have to tell you this, it was pretty, you should look it up on YouTube. It was the dog, the first scene is the little girl with her dog, and then she grows up, and then she goes off to college, and the dog's getting a little slower, and then she comes back from college, the dog is, it's all happening within the 15 years of the dog's lifetime, is this transition for this girl, and she comes back with her boyfriend, and the whole time it's like, I want to hold you forever. Anyways, change the context of the song, but it is what it is. But that was a super great thing for the record. I mean, it recouped all of the investment that we would have made on that record. Something like that can be anywhere up to $100,000 a side, if not more, depending on. And they're spending millions of dollars to use your song on TV. So that's the big one. And then from there you have movies, or trailers, which are also not quite as substantial as what would a TV commercial would pay, but still can be quite good in the 5-figure range. And then from there, it would go to HBO TV shows, and then from there down to sports action stuff on YouTube. So it's all like really out there, and we're lucky that this type of music is really nice as a backdrop to visuals. And then it's the same thing. It's like we reach out to the music supervisors and we develop those relationships, and most of them are in Los Angeles still, and you work closely with your publishers. It's all like crossing your fingers, but over the years it's like anything, it just continually comes in regularly. So it's an important component to how record labels make money at this point. And then from there, the streaming, but it all derives from making a good record, and people feeling they can relate to the artist. Even the music supervisors, I love that Jalen record. They think we're in their consciousness. So when a TV show comes in, a great TV show. Does anyone remember this show called Big Little Lies? It was an HBO series. That was a great, there are music supervisors that are really good. Like Randall Poster's a great music supervisor. He does all the Scorsese movies, does all the Wes Anderson movies. I mean, he could break a song. Like, you think of The Creation, Making Time, or these songs that where did he dig these songs up? These music supervisors have a real good one is a really important part of the production of any TV show or movie. But we do have those relationships, and we do try to get them excited about helping our artists. And I think that we've always been kind of an underdog because we've stayed so independent that we're on the good side of these people. But it is important for anyone who's in the music business to know that those are opportunities that you need to go for. But never try to write a song for a TV commercial. It'll never work.
So talking about these kind of advices, so is there any skill set that you think someone should have when starting a career as a musician?
Listen to everything. But really listen to what turns you on. Like, I don't mean listen to everything. That's too broad. But ask yourself the question, when you do hear something you like, what's making that, what is it about that's touching you? Is it the rawness or the slickness, or is it even a certain chord progression? Starting from minor sounds to major sounds. I find often for me, I'll be like, this feels so good, and then it's like the rhythm is what's driving me crazy and it's making me so excited. And then on the other side, something rhythmically feels shitty. It's like not lining up, or and another thing, like, and vocals too. Like, is everything that you're listening that's happening in the record? Can you take everything else out, and that one thing is still going to feel great? The bass line, or the drums, or the vocals. Like, you take everything out, and all of a sudden the vocals are like, ooh, you know, or like, shit. Yeah. That's the record, you know.
So really, like being conscious about what you hear,
and then trying to find out, like, what did they dig, you know? I mean, that's obvious, but like, you know, I can't stress enough, like, we're all deep record collectors, not record collectors, like, I'm not, I mean, but we've listened, we're always, and still, I'm just always trying to find new music, and Spotify's great for that. Like, even hook up your algorithm, man, it's like the best, you know? Seriously. I have, my algorithm is good.
Currently,
like, I can let some shit, like, I can get it going, and then it's just like, it's like, oh, a lot of stuff you've heard, click over, but then every night it's like, oh, man, Lord Luther, like, oh man, I didn't know that blues artist.
Yeah, my current algorithm is, you know, like influenced by my daughter's choice. As you can see here, she was doing the correction on my cards. So all the years of algorithming, it's gone. So, anyways, I'm more into records anyway. So I would like to open. And pass the microphone to the members of the audience. And if there are still questions burning under your nails, as we say in German, so please, we have a microphone here. And so tell us your name and also what role, what company you're representing.
Hi there, my name is Nat Cartier. I'm an artist and I'm a multi-instrumentalist too, and I play the saxophone as one of my main instruments. So maybe I'd love to hear from you as a saxophonist. What do you want to see happen with artists who play the saxophone over the 21st century? How do you what do you want to see in the world of saxophone happen?
Wow. I may not be the right person to ask, but man, less notes, for one. It's an easy instrument to play a lot of notes on. Right? You know, but obviously, like, yeah, man, it's like everyone who plays sax, like, tone is, you know, again, man, I don't know, like, I don't want to, I can sound really heavy-handed by saying certain things, and I don't mean it but in this whole conversation, just like saxophone, like you have this artist like John Coltrane, who is this like such a heavy spiritual, intense musician to listen to. Like, sometimes you have to be ready for that, right? And his sound is so beautiful. But then there's a whole bunch of people that kind of came after him that kind of messed up the instrument. I don't know if anyone can understand what I'm talking about, but like, what happened to Gene Ammons, you know, like other guys before that, you know, that, I don't know, I don't know if this is answering your question or not. And I don't want to get on a soaps, what are they, like a soapbox and start saying that, you know, get this misconstrued that Sugarman said, oh, Coltrane is, you know.
But maybe you can also explain.
But again, it's just kind of like listening as a saxo, as you know, you checking out Coleman Hawkins and Johnny Hodges and Gene Ammons. Like, these are the guys that made the sound of that instrument resonate to where it is today. And it's just important that everyone, I think that it's a responsibility to be going backwards, you know. Anyways.
But also how you developed as a jazz musician, coming also with some punk experience, you said.
Yeah, exactly. So
you were trying to push boundaries yourself, and
possibly, like, yes, staying raw, and it was always that same thing. Like with the saxophone, it's such a lyrical instrument, like, and I find myself even today asking myself these questions: what are these melodies that I'm really gravitated towards? And at the end, it's always stuff that you can sing. If you can't sing it, you know, it's easy to play what you can't sing. It's much harder as an improviser to play what you can sing and have conviction and really have that idea moving into the next idea. This is on a jazz thing, improvisational tip. But anyways, that's my feeling. Hopefully that helps. I don't know.
Any more questions?
Like, don't get him going again.
So yeah, I mean, we will be afterwards also in the foyer or in the bistro. I don't know. You may be off to Talville, you said, but
yeah, there's actually a great saxophone player playing in Talville tonight named Vincent Herring.
But you'll be back for Say She. So
yes, I will be back for that. Yeah.
So if there's any questions you don't want to ask here in the big round, you can ask later. And yeah, so I would also, because we have also a bit time left, we can also point out a certain artist you want to talk about.
Play that gospel queen. I mean the Como Mamas
Como
record
Mamas,
again.
yeah.
Just to give you, this is a record that these are okay. So this came to us through a guy who was going down to Como, Mississippi. Mike. Came back he said, man, I found these great singers, and it's these 3 women that had been singing together since they were little kids in church, and we did an a cappella record with them. And they came up to New York on a gig, and we went into the studio with Tom Brennick and Homer and Nick Mavshan and recorded this, and
tell me how
you get the idea of what it's about. This is a traditional gospel song.
So we will keep listening to the song, but I just want to make a quick outro. So that was the keynote talk with Neal Sugarman, ladies and gentlemen. And my name is Emel, and it was a pleasure and great honor to be with you on this stage. Thank you, m4music, for inviting me to do this. And I wish you a lot of fun and inspiration tonight at the rest of the m4music festival. And yeah, thank you and take care. Bye.